Hi there and welcome to Enable VC. My name's Anthony McCool and I wanted to do a little intro into our business and how we're going to take this business by storm and be all positive and motivating. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the wrong camera. Oh, I've got so many cameras here. I don't know which one is which. I'm looking at that one. And so look, very briefly, you can see that in the red section, I've had a quite successful, I think, career in the audio, visual, and video conferencing industry. I've loved my time, and it's been great for me. I think I've worked across all elements of the channel there. At one point, I actually owned a business that was doing very well, but like many things in my life, it seems to come like the seasons every year, where things go great and suddenly something comes that you don't quite expect. And actually, so during that spell, I already was in a situation where I lost a considerable amount, actually. I would say wasn't anything I could control. I had to do what was right, and I'm glad I did, but we lost a lot. So we lost our home, we lost other things that we had invested for our children's future and things. So, but is what it is. And I managed to dust myself down and go again and build a new business. And in the process of all of that, I've always been involved in football. Done football coaching my whole life, from when I first snapped my ACL, aged 17. I went and did my coaching badges. I knew I wanted to stay in the game. I would say, pretty successful. I think the pinnacle was being with the club where I grew up on the team bus and walking out at Wembley as part of the staff. I think it was something that everyone, of course, as a player is the dream, but to do that as part of the technical team, I think was immense, and I'll never forget that day. And the many other experiences in football, pinching myself, being at all the top Premier League training grounds and bumping into many people we all know. So I can't complain, although I would say I worked hard for that. And actually in that game, one thing people that do know me is if I see things that aren't quite right, that's a train message, isn't it? See it, say it. Well, you don't do that in football, not in my experience. And I had concerns about welfare, children's welfare. But this was a game that just doesn't bode well to question. And actually, overall, I still stand by those thoughts, really. I think like rash recruitment, taking children out of school, when they go back to grassroots club, some of the reports that are done, not a lot of thought put into it. Many things. But it has to have an effect on children's futures when you take them out of school. And people here will listen to this and say, yeah, but parents have a choice. I've been there as a coach, and I've been there as a parent, and separately I will continue to write about it. And the overriding thing for me is that we should give something back in terms of support for higher education for those young people, to give them a healthier start back into kind of the working world. But anyway, things didn't bode well for me then once I started speaking up, and I quickly found myself kind of spiralling away from football, and I started my own business again. And this time we were doing quite well. So about 6 years ago or so, I didn't really plan for what was going to come, but we had a long-term strategy. I had an idea for a new game. And we took it across schools. I loved doing it. I loved going up and down the country to around 200 schools in the end. It was absolutely superb, and I did some coaching masterclass with PE teachers. Everything going perfectly well, apart from suddenly some quickfire setbacks, and I wasn't prepared for that. And the football had started to come apart as well. I was a manager at the time. I think this distracted me a lot from business, I have to say. It was a bit of a thankless task as well. And that, of course, certainly didn't help. But what happened then was we were defrauded, and I still to this day feel like such an idiot. I can't believe I fell for it. I am the most paranoid person when it comes to, fraud and trust and but I did. I fell for it. And the mistake I made was I allowed it. Well, you can see now it still hurts, but I allowed it to eat me alive because I knew how the fraud had happened. I knew where the money and goods had gone. And I just felt like there was nothing for us. We were a small company. And even at that time, because almost altogether my wife had fallen ill, and she stood at the end of our desk in our office, and she said, "We're done, aren't we? This is it again. We're going to lose our business." And I remember feeling like I couldn't answer because I knew the answer, and the answer was, yeah, that was all our capital, and the authorities gave us a reference number. I was so frustrated, and because of that frustration, I let it eat me alive instead of just walking forward, putting it behind me quickly. I didn't. So that was a big mistake. And then the illness to my wife just kept escalating and escalating, and we ended up in hospital, if not every day, every other day. Then she would be in, and that meant I couldn't travel. I couldn't get around the country. Of course, it's nothing to compare or contrast. It's just that it was just a thing. It's just got to be done. And of course, that meant our only income was us travelling to those schools, and that income quickly was switched off. On the back of that, my son was working for the family business. At that point, he snapped his cruciate for the second time, so his career was halted. And then he fought his way back and came back, and then there was something not quite right with the surgery. After a year, he had done it again, had to go full rehab. In fact, he's now finished his third complete rehab of ACLs, 2 on one on the other knee. So as a business, we knew we were done for, and there was now this long-term illness to my wife that we needed to take care of. So we were in and out of hospital, then going to London. We lost our business. I was being hounded. We'd fallen into debt. Some of it from a long time before. Some of it, it's hard to even say, but so this is it. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. Everyone sees you as a success, but deep down, I'm getting hounded all the time, whether it be HMRC, which, by the way, wasn't for unpaid tax. It was for mistakes by an accountancy firm. Anyway, it was for fines actually, but we just couldn't afford to pay it. And with the other debts, it put us into a horrible situation. We lost our home again. I was selling everything I had on eBay to buy train tickets. I mean, I actually keep these tickets. I mean, this was from one of the years, and I mean, this was purely for you're blurring. This was trains to London to get treatment because we're not entitled to anything. We don't get no help. We don't get nothing free here. Everything we ask, we're not entitled to anything. So we had to find the money because we knew my wife's only way of survival was to go to London, and I'm glad we did. But that's thousands of pounds that we didn't have. So we sold things, everything. In fact, I had one thing left. I'd always wanted this really lovely watch, and I always dreamed that one day I'd own a really nice watch. And actually, it turned out I got to the point where I did. Well, for me, it was nice. It wasn't a Rolex, but it was nice. And I remember my wife crying because I'd put it on eBay, or I'd boxed it ready for eBay, and she called me and she said, "You cannot, you not going to sell that watch, But it's like, it's not. So it's a watch, like everything else, the house, the car. the watch. It's all crap, really. It doesn't really matter a jot, because you can come again and that'll be it. So anyway, we lost everything. It was time to somehow, I don't know where we're going to go from this. We had nothing left. We was already in a situation with my wife's illnesses that we never travelled on holiday. And anyway, God, this is deep, isn't it? See, I'm getting sucked into the emotion. But what you can do is you can recover again, and we did recover again. So I got a formula, and eventually I dust myself down, and my formula is this. First of all, say to yourself, I am not going to give up, because it is a bit like fight or flight. And I know I disappeared into a hole, and I know you dread the postman woman coming. That the sound of that letterbox is terrifying, because it's only ever bad news. The phone ringing, your mobile ringing, with these rogue debt collectors hounding you, threatening you. They use that humiliation. They're good at that, I think. They must have a target audience where they know that probably will work, because especially, I guess, like middle-aged men are the biggest number of suicide victims, and probably pride. I think I can see that. Yeah, you don't want people to know. You feel really, really embarrassed, and they use that. So the big thing is, though, is don't give up. Don't give up, because once you make that decision, it can get better. The other thing is to talk about it, because if you, this cliche, I know you hear it all the time, talk, but first of all, there is genuine help out there. Some really good organisations, even they, really follow the rules, and I think no one really tackles the rogue behaviour of these people. Imagine being really rich and wealthy and preying on the weakest, most vulnerable people. That don't sit well with me. I'd be homeless tomorrow in a heartbeat before you gave me 3 homes and a villa in Spain and a Bentley. If you asked me, how did I obtain that wealth? Well, we did it by preying on people in the most desperate need and tricking them and bullying them into submission. No, not for me. So when you talk about it, actually, you realise as well other people are in a similar situation. Loads. It's all relative, right, as well. People you wouldn't think, very perceived wealthy people. It's all relative. So actually, it's very liberating, and I don't mind it now. I don't care. I come from a council house in Luton. It was sometimes embarrassing. Sometimes I wore to school I was dreading open days. What do they call it? Non-uniform days. Mind you, people would say I don't dress that well now when I had a choice, but I'm very pleased about where I come from. We also learned a lot of skills, life skills, manners for one, real, good standards, caring for others, caring for your neighbours. It's not about money and ego, and I still maintain that. So I'm pleased where I come from, but talk about it, because you'd be surprised. It's very liberating. The next thing I realised, was to choose well who I spent my time with, and people. I found this in football. I would get calls all the time. My phone just beeped there, but my phone never stopped ringing when I was in football, all the time. When you're at the top of your business, the phone never stops ringing, because you wonder, is it because people think they can gain something from you? And my word, you have a lot of friends. They call them friends. I see it now on the internet. People say in business about friends and how close they are to people. But yeah, I'm not so sure about that, because when I was on my knees, one thing I know as sure as eggs are eggs is that no one knocks on the door with an answer. And even the phone went quiet, went really quiet. So now I think to myself, I know, again, cliches, but I know the people that did call, that did ring, maybe that I didn't say anything, but they knew something was wrong, and they stayed in touch and stayed with it, and I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm glad I've still got those people in my life. But for the other guys that didn't, support me, or I think gave me more pain, made my life more difficult, made it more challenging. Maybe they have really horrible views about life or things that just make you unhappy. You know what? Move on. And that's something that became really valuable for me. And then another thing is time. So spend your time doing things that you like. I like laughing, believe it or not, because this is grim. But I love laughing. I love classic British comedy in particular. I love the crack. I love banter. I love going out for a beer and people taking the rise out of me and vice versa. That's what keeps me going, laughing. I think it's really important for me personally, and also to really think a lot about the time and don't waste time. But when you say don't waste time, taking time like that for laughter, doing things that you like with your family, just do things you want to do. That's good, positive time. It's just a wasted time. Wasted time, I know, for example. I remember spells on social media, where you can get really bogged down with people with horrible views, for example, on social media. And the dangerous ones now, the video ones, So I have my own rule, for example. I don't look at social media video in bed. Just one little rule is for me, because it happened. I could wake up, look at my phone, and an hour would pass. An hour. Imagine I could have done my exercise. I could have done my email. Could have done. So for me, no, I don't do it. The exercise and health bit, no, of course, I still could do better. That's a battle, with my injuries. It's hard for me to do certain things. I can't run, for example, anymore. Again, some people would argue I never did. But I love exercise. I loved running, and I can't do it anymore. So I find the time now for, in particular, walking. I walk at least an hour a day. I don't care how busy I am, because I tell myself this: will this I'm doing now, will it still be here tomorrow? Well, it will. So that's good, positive time. Go for a walk. Take time out. If you can train, great. Monday I'm playing tennis with my son. That is brilliant business time for me, because it's refreshing my brain. It's good for my body. It's good for my soul. And I think exercise is vital. And obviously just trying to monitor what goes in your mouth, actually. And for me, yeah, Guinness is lovely, but perhaps need to limit what the volumes are that go in your mouth, and what type of food. But there we go. Another big thing for me, just to finish up here, is help. I've got help here. The reason I put help is you might need other people to help you talk. It goes against the grain. For me, I just have never felt like that was right for me. But it's what's right for you. So if that's right for you, you do it. What helps me is helping others. It's just a personal thing. So I've done some things for young people, some youths that have found themselves in trouble with the police, for example, and they want to use football as a vehicle and a mindset and a positive way of moving on from perhaps a life that wouldn't be good for them. And also, like, when I think about my experience with losing homes and businesses and debt and dark depression that no one ever sees, because they only ever see this upbeat human being, is to write about it. And I'm writing about that with this profit and poor thing. And wow, since I started talking like this, I've had people come to me. I've had young footballers released by football clubs because I know what that's like. I've had them, where suddenly they've got looking at a different career and struggling to come to terms with it. I've had career people from my AV industry, at least 3 people now, come to me to speak to me and to say thank you for opening up about that. This is a scenario that I've had or going through, and just feeling better that they can talk about it. And then the last one, you're pleased to know, I wanted to do this 20 minutes, so we're nearly there, is define your success. And success isn't a quick fix on social media, and there's so much pressure on people. I think young people especially, they look and they think success is about these cars and all these flash things, and where there's so much pressure on young people. But define success for you. I mean, defining success for me is, I broke the cycle, for example, of things that happened to me as a child. That actually, when I stop and think about it, I didn't need the big double-breasted house with the Bentley outside. That is success for me, to break that cycle. I've got a clean CRB record. I've been knocked back loads of times, but I've not resorted to crime. I help people. I try to give to the poor what little I have. I've taught my kids to don't walk past homeless people. I know there's some dark things that maybe people get into, but no one should be hungry and cold. So is there any little thing that you can do? And we try to do that a lot. My wife, with all of her ailments, disease, and difficulties, every week she goes to see our old elderly neighbour to make sure she's okay, because she's got nobody else in the world. Now, selfishly, that makes us feel better. Is that such a bad thing? And I think if I've created that mindset with my kids, then that's success. And yeah, do you know what? In all of it, I'd love to be comfortable. I don't want the stress anymore. I don't want to worry. And it would be nice to, have a little holiday. That would be nice. So, anyway, that leads me on to my new business, which is Enable VC, and we're going for it. I've spent years doing this. In all of our dark part, we were sitting on broken laptops to recreate this business from all the old information we had, from all the skills I'd learned previously. Laptops that had to be turned off and on every 10 minutes, licenses, we weren't sure what we had, what we didn't have. We were broke, but we ploughed through it and we got on, and now we're back. And by the way, we part of actually what I said about talking is owning the issue. See where you stand. It's really important, and I know now. I look every day where I sit, and gloating here, but you can do it. We got back. We don't owe anyone any money. We have some money put aside for a new home that we're looking for, which is more convenient for my wife as well. So we're going to be buying a house very soon. We've got our own car back. Business is looking exciting. I can't wait to share all the business elements with everybody. But look, thanks for listening to this. Do you know what? I think I might be talking to myself, because this is therapy, isn't it? Maybe. If anyone in my house is listening to this, here we go. He is crackers. So dial into Enable VC. Take a look at the football pathway if you're interested in sport. I'm going to do some interviews and stuff around that. I've got some social media links on here as well, which you can hook up to. And if you're in a bit of trouble, debt and the like, then pop on that profit and pool. It might give you a bit of hope to stay in the game and keep fighting. Right, I'm going to go. Bye.